Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Kelvin here. As you can see, we have another special guest today. He's Aaron from MileLion. Just in case you guys do not know already, MileLion is a blog where Aaron talks a lot about credit cards, specifically Miles card. And he also spent a lot of his effort trying to brainwash people into getting the Miles card.
Of course.
So welcome to the channel, Aaron.
Hi, thanks for having me, Kelvin.
You started this MileLion blog in 2015. Then later you went into full-time at 2018. How did that whole journey feel like?
Yeah, so my first job out of university, I graduated in August 2013, was with a management consulting firm headquartered in Boston, but they didn't have a Singapore office at the time. And the closest office they had to Singapore was in Mumbai. So straight out of university, like 2 weeks after graduation finished, moved over to India. Keep in mind that I hadn't lived overseas in my whole life. I didn't even do overseas exchange, right? So the first 20, 25 years of my life all in Singapore. So that was quite a big culture shock, I guess. But the upside of relocation was, even though I was nominally based in India, I was only there maybe 1/3 of the time. The other 2/3 of the time I was on the road traveling, because as you may or may not know, a management consultant travels a whole lot for work. So I won't lie, the hours were pretty brutal. It's the kind of like 9 to 9 job where on a good day it's 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. On a bad day it's 9 a.m. to 9 a.m. So there really is no night, no day. But the plus side of it was that you will never pay for your own vacation again, because you're earning so many miles and points through your job, right? That on the off chance they do let you go on vacation, your flights are paid for, your hotels are paid for. So it's kind of like a love-hate relationship. You work like crazy, but you also get these kind of side perks. So the thing was that most people in the office, well, I mean, you're spending quite a lot on your personal cards because you get reimbursed, so you pay for things like expenses and all. But most people had no idea how to use their miles properly. So everyone would just use like the company issued card or something, even though you could use your own personal cards, right? Everyone just used it out of convenience. They would just redeem their miles on very silly things like toasters or stuff that really wasn't worth it. I've always had kind of an interest in frequent flyer programs even before starting this job, because I'm the kind of person who likes to extract like every last drop of value. So I knew a bit, but obviously doing the job gave me an even more in-depth knowledge of it. So when you're deciding which hotel chain should I stay with, then you say, okay, what does Starwood have versus what does Hilton have versus what does Hyatt have? And when you're using a card to spend, well, presumably you want to earn the most kickback in terms of miles, right? Whenever you do that. So I kind of became the office go-to person for all questions miles related. Like someone said, oh, what card do I use? And say, oh, go find Aaron, go ask him. And I started doing these kind of like lunchtime talks. So every Friday, once a month, someone else talks about some hobby they have. So someone says, oh, I collect stamps, I collect blah, blah, blah. I collect miles, right? That's the thing that I do. And eventually in April 2015, I decided, well, why don't I just start an online resource? You want to call it a blog at the time, because blog was a dirty word. An online resource where people could find answers to questions that I get asked hundreds and hundreds of times, so that every time someone comes up to me, I don't need to say the same thing. I can say, hey, well, why don't you read this link I'm going to send you? And that was the genesis of the Paylah in April 2015. Now, at the time, I really thought it would be like one of those blogs you start in JC. I don't know how old you are, but back when I was in JC in 2005, 2006, right, everyone would have like their own emo blog that you write for like maybe 6 months, and then and then you just forget about it, and then maybe 5 years down the road you stumble upon it and you're like mortified by the kind of stuff that you write. I always thought it would end up that way, right? I thought it'd be something I just do for like 6, 7, 8 months and then just But for some reason or another, it was I think it managed to tap into something that there was interest in Singapore, but maybe not so much coverage at the time. The miles and points community was fairly nascent, right? And site got traction. I was purely doing it as a side kind of thing because I really enjoy writing. So even though I was working really long hours, I found the writing process to be very cathartic, very relaxing. And eventually in October 2018, I decided, okay, well, the site's making some money, right? It's not like crazy retirement money, but it was making some money. So why not just try and do it for, I don't know, 6 months, right? If it works out, great. If not, I think 6 months is a reasonable enough gap for employers to be empathetic, especially if you can show them during the 6 months you were doing something and not just like lying on the beach. So yeah, October 2018 went full-time, haven't looked back since.
I think you were really successful in this whole thing. Like whenever I search for Miles card, your name will appear at the first result.
Yeah, so look, like I said, I think there's a lot of interest in Singapore about miles cards, but the thing you need to understand is like, so there's two main kinds of rewards, right? Your miles and your cashback.
Right.
Now, cashback cards work for a certain segment of people. They are very intuitive, right? Because everyone knows intuitively how much $1 of cashback is worth, right? But how many people know how much 1 mile is worth? Right, because it's like a two-step process.
Right.
So with cashback, you earn cashback and it's automatically offset against your bill. But with miles, you earn the miles and then you need to figure out what do I do with the miles that I have. Right? And miles, there are smart ways of spending them and there are not so smart ways of spending them as well. So that's really what I try to do with the site, to tell people how to earn miles efficiently, how to earn miles as fast as possible, and how to spend them for as much value as possible.
You have been doing this for a very long time now, and now that you're your own boss, how do you convince yourself to have a healthy work-life balance? Like, I have to stop work at this time and not work more. Because like, for me, right, if I put in more effort, it actually converts into more earnings. Like, but for you, where do you draw the line?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I think what's quite tricky now is that work doesn't feel like work. Because I'm doing something that I genuinely enjoy. Correct. So even when I was doing my previous job, even if I just worked like a 14, 15-hour day, which actually did happen quite a few times, I would still want to come back and write because I genuinely enjoyed it. Right? So now when it's become like the main thing, I do agree it is very difficult to separate the work stuff from the everything else stuff. I do set myself like an internal goal, like every day I would do at least 2 pieces. Right. Or if it's 1 piece, then that 1 piece should be pretty big, like a 2,000, 3,000 word kind of trip report kind of thing. But I would say it's probably a balance I haven't quite worked out yet, because it doesn't feel like work. I keep coming back to that same point, right? Obviously, if I were doing some other kind of job, I can imagine me wanting to set a very clear line between what is work and what is not work. But in this case, if it feels like something that I kind of like derive recreational value from, then maybe not. But I do realize that there are sometimes, like say when I'm traveling on vacation with the wife, or when I've got other family commitments kind of things, that it does help to kind of like draw those lines between work and not work. But no, it's constantly a kind of work in progress thing to understand how best to strike that balance.
Right. For me, actually, I find it very hard. Like, it's eating even into my personal life. And I have to rely on my wife to like, hey, stop this.
Do you have kids?
Yeah, so I have 1 kid.
Yeah, okay, so that's even...
Yeah, it's even hard. So I have to tell myself, I have to stop working now. I have my kid. Yeah. So I have to divide my time.
Yeah, correct. Because, I mean, your channel is also like your baby, right? But one is making you money and the other one is just like sapping all your money, so...
But the other one might make me money in 20 years' time.
True. But
But now I'm not treating that as investment. One thing about creating content is that there's always money coming your way. Like, people want to give you money to like talk good about them.
Yes.
So like, how do you ensure that you are untainted by corruption and you are maintain your integrity? Yeah,
so look, impartiality and integrity are 2 absolutely essential things, especially for a site like mine, because when we are in the business of reviewing hotels and airlines, people only come to you because they know that what you're writing is your own impartial, informed opinion, and it's not something that a PR team pays you to write. So 2 or 3 thoughts about this. First of all is that while there is sponsored content on the MileLion, everything is always disclosed up front. So I know some articles like to hide it at the very end, or do just mention in 1 line in the middle of the thing that, oh, we were invited by so and so. I think it's best to state it in clear up front that this is a sponsored post by who. That way there's no doubt about the post. So every time there's a sponsored post on the MileLion, you always see that up front. Right. The second one is to think about the relative mix of sponsored content versus non-sponsored content. Right. So some other platforms may have made sponsored content a key pillar of their business model where they derive quite a lot from it. That's not the case for the MileLion. I would say last year, maybe 5 to 6% of total revenue came from sponsored posts. Last year, well, I can't remember how many posts I wrote, but I would say that maybe at most 9 to 10 of 700 plus posts were
Right.
sponsored, right? So there's a selectivity process there, right? So there's disclosure, there's selectivity. And I think the third is that if you just think about self-interest, right? It's not in your interest to develop the reputation as a site that just reprints press releases. Because people aren't dumb, right? They can tell for themselves when something is genuine and when something is not genuine. So if you were to go down the path where almost every other post on the site is sponsored, whether or not you disclose it, people are gonna sooner or later decide that, hey, this is no different from reading an advertisement by the company itself, right? So that's also not in your own long-term interest. Now, if the MileLion were a bigger organization, right, obviously you would have two different teams. You'd have an editorial team and you'd have a commercial team, and the two would sit completely separate. Now, that's not possible for something that's basically a one-man kind of business. But as far as possible, I think by number one, disclosing, and number two, being very selective in terms of how many posts are sponsored versus how many are not sponsored, I think you kind of find the right mix in there.
Right.
And ultimately, the audience themselves is the judge of that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so like what you say, right? The MileLion, I think it tries because you are sincere, you are authentic, and I will go to your blog to read about real reviews that you have. Like you will call out bullshit if it's really bad.
Yeah, and look, let me tell you, I received very, very angry emails from hotels and banks and all about stuff that I've written. So it's safe to say I'm not on the Christmas card list of a few of those. I even did a sponsored hotel review once where management absolutely hated what I wrote.
Oh, no.
I thought it was pretty fair and balanced, but they wanted me to take it down. They were saying, no, you can't say anything. I said, well, I made it very clear when I came on board that whatever I write is whatever I write. You can't hate the mirror because you're ugly. Right. The mirror is just a reflection. There's good stuff, there's not so good stuff. So if you expect the kind of like gushing, falling review that someone else might do, well, it's not the right place to come to, you know. That's just not how things are done here.
Going back to the whole mouse thing, what's if your whole obsession about mouse? Like there's almost like a mouse master race kind of thing already.
Oh
right?
yeah. I think for me, the best thing about miles is not so much the value, but more about the experiences.
Okay.
So let me put it this way. If miles did not exist, I would never fly in first or business class.
Right.
Because I would not be willing to pay that sort of money. I mean, Singapore to US round trip business class, maybe $7,000-ish, which is a lot of money to spend for 18 hours, 17 hours each way, right? So it's just silly, right? I like having a good time, but I'm not going to spend $7,000 to have a good time, right? It's just not financially smart. But because miles exist, I don't need to spend that money, right? And because miles exist, I can therefore experience things like first and business class, which I would not be able to experience if miles didn't exist because I wouldn't be willing to pay that amount of money for it. So I think that is the true kind of magic of miles. It means that you don't have to spend silly money to enjoy amazing experiences like this. So some people see miles as more of a value thing. So every time they get miles, they might redeem like a cheap economy class ticket to like Bangkok or Bali or something because it saves them money. That is a perfectly legitimate approach as well, right? But the thing is that I could always have bought an economy ticket to Bangkok or Bali if I really had to, right? I would not be willing to spend $7,000 business class to the US.
Right.
So that is the whole access point of miles, which I think is it's like this amazing thing that is probably even more worth it than just looking at pure value.
Quick pause. Webull is the latest stockbroker in Singapore. With Webull, you can now buy US stocks, US options, and Hong Kong stocks for a low fee of $0. Yes, that's right. It's zero commission trading. Webull also supports fractional shares. So you can now buy stocks with just your $100 Angbao money. But the most important question is, what's their sign-up gift? If you sign up now, deposit at least $1,965, make 6 buy trades on either US stocks, ETFs or options, you will get $100 worth of free Google shares. This promotion ends on 1st September, yeah? So if you are interested, you can sign up with my link down below. With that being said, let's get back to the video. Speaking of travel, how many times do you travel a year?
Like pre-COVID? Wow. Pre-COVID would easily be at least twice a month. And, well, with different durations. I mean, some of them might just be a one 2-night trip. And some of the trips I do are specifically just to do reviews of airline or hotel products.
Okay.
So for example, when ANA launched their new business class called The Room, which is really, really amazing, I redeemed my miles for that flight, and then I flew to New York just for 2 nights, just so I could review that product on the way there and back. So some of the trips are really like that kind of short, like just 1-2 nights, where the express purpose is just to look at the airline product or look at this hotel or something. Ever since the borders opened, so when borders opened in September last year, so we had the VTLs with Germany and Brunei, which no one went to Brunei. But yeah, so I went to Germany straight away, and then I went to Germany again with the wife in October. I did South Korea, did Australia, New Zealand, Thailand. I've done Bali as well. So quite a few places.
It's like a revenge travel thing.
Oh yeah,
really.
I mean, look, 2020 was not fun, put it that way. 2020 was once in a lifetime, hopefully once in a lifetime event. Yeah, so you gotta make up for lost time, you know.
Till now, I still haven't really traveled yet.
Ever since COVID?
Yeah, because I have a kid.
Yeah, well, that does change the equation, yeah.
Right, but even before COVID, I seldom travel because I have a job. I know you have a job, but I have a full-time job. Yeah, so it makes it a bit more harder to travel.
I see.
You have went to so many places. Is there like a one country that you are very fond of?
It really depends what you're asking for. So
The whole experience kind of
yeah,
thing.
so look, one of the best trips I've had in recent memory was my trip to New Zealand. I just went to New Zealand in May once the borders opened. And New Zealand is just blessed with such a natural beauty. Have you been to New Zealand before?
Not yet, but I plan to.
Yeah, so we went to South Island, Christchurch, drove down to Queenstown or Milford Sound.
Right.
We saw Mount Cook. Yeah, so it was so incredibly amazing, especially for someone who comes from a place like Singapore, right, which is just a big urban jungle. But you go to New Zealand and you see like endless hills. And what's so funny is that I'm pretty sure people think we're kind of silly, but every time we go and see sheep, we get so excited. But for them, it's like they see sheep every day, but we only see sheep in zoos. So when we see them by the side of the road or something, we just take picture kind of thing.
I get what you're saying. Like behind my house, there's a lot of chickens, and I get excited when seeing those
Yeah,
chickens.
right. So you're kind of like this, like a swatu, silly, city folk kind of person. But I also thought the food in New Zealand was surprisingly good. I always thought it was just like some second-rate British fish and chips kind of stuff, but no, they have a lot of modern New Zealand restaurants which do some really amazing things with the produce that they have there. So I would say New Zealand is easily the best trip I've had in recent memory. Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's move on. I want you to rate my cards.
Oh,
I
yeah.
brought a few cards.
That'd be fun.
Okay, I know my cards suck according to your standard.
I've not even said anything yet. Wow. Guilty conscience, someone. So look, I first and foremost, I'm going to say that I don't consider myself an expert on cashback cards. That's simply not an area that I delve a lot into. So you've got a UOB one here. That could very well be a cashback card that works for you, but I wouldn't really know how to fit it into an overall strategy. What I do know is that, okay, you've got an Amex True cashback card here. So that's 1.5% cashback on all your spend. But crucially, what your viewers may or may not know is that it still earns cashback for GrabPay top-ups.
Correct.
So GrabPay is accepted at AXS machines, and AXS machines can be used to pay a lot of your bills, your town council bill, your income tax, your company tax if you own a company, your MCST fees, stuff like that. So this is really the only way to earn some sort of rebate on that. So basically you get 1.5% on all of your income tax, right? Which is pretty amazing if you think about it, right? So you use this, you top up your GrabPay account, you use GrabPay to pay AXS, you pay off your income tax bill. So that is why this is probably one of the few cashback cards that I would hold on to, simply because it's impossible to earn miles or points on things like your town council bill, MCST fee, income tax, stuff like that. So yeah, this one probably good one to hold on to. You got the crypto card. Yeah, I don't know too much about the crypto card other than they recently cut some of the benefits, right? So
They cut it by a lot.
and Netflix. Well, it's not so surprising, right? I mean, the past 2 years when crypto was just going gangbusters, I'm sure they had the means to finance stuff like that. Now, is this the one with the launch access though? This has launch
No,
access,
this
right?
is the lowest tier.
Oh,
after all the cuts, this card is practically worthless now. But this, with the build quality of this card is really good.
The build quality is I don't know whether you can hear it if I tap it like this. Sorry, I'm just trying to memorize all your card numbers and your expiry dates as well, just so I could, So yeah, I can't really comment too much on this other than I would say that if you don't understand what crypto is, you have no business owning this, because the whole idea behind this card was that you would stake a certain amount. It used to be called MCO, now it's CRO, I think, and then as long as you stake that amount, you would get the benefits of the
It was
card.
Netflix and Spotify.
Yeah, and
but they cut it by
and
so
they
much.
even had lounge access, right? In for
this
some of
card,
the higher tier
higher
cards.
tiers,
Higher tier
correct.
cards. Yeah. So that was great if you were confident that the crypto would at least maintain its value, right? But obviously, when it goes down, then you tend to make a net loss on it, lah, right?
Right.
So that's the main piece of advice. If you're not comfortable with crypto as an investment, then I don't think this is the right card for you. It is possible to get lounge access through other credit cards, where at the very most you have the annual fee to deal with, which can be waived in some cases.
Right.
Okay, Grab Pay card, yeah, we talked about this as well. So this plus the Amex True Cashback card, this is the good combination. Grab Pay card in and of itself is quite pathetic because Grab has been cutting the rewards so much left, right, center. So if you just use this by itself, really no point. Might as well use a credit card.
Right.
But this plus this with AXS, yeah, that's where the good combination comes in. I see you've got a Revolut card here as well. Good for traveling, even if you don't really travel that much. But the thing about Revolut, right, is that it works on the prepaid wallet concept. So when you travel, you top up, say, your USD wallet or your Euro wallet or whatever, and then you spend it overseas, and then there's no card transaction fees. And the idea is that the rate that Revolut offers you for, say, Sing the USD, Sing the Euro is very competitive. That said, the fact that you're topping up a wallet means that you cannot earn credit card rewards. But for the moment, and I don't know whether this information will be out of date even before the video goes to print, for the moment there is another alternative called the Amaze card. So Amaze is offered by InstaRam, and the amazing thing about Amaze is that it lets you pair a credit card to the Amaze card.
The MasterCard, right?
Yes, it must be a MasterCard. So when you go overseas, you swipe or you tap your Amaze card. Amaze will convert the foreign currency transaction into Singapore dollars at a fairly reasonable rate, right? And then they charge a credit card in Singapore dollars. So you still earn your credit card points or miles or cashback as per normal, because Amaze has not been excluded by any bank except DBS at the moment, right? And then you also enjoy the benefits of no foreign currency transaction fees. So that to me is the best of both worlds right now. Whenever I go overseas, I always use my Amaze card, for the moment, because you can still earn miles, you still enjoy no foreign currency transaction fees, although there is a spread that Amaze has, although it's much less than a typical bank foreign currency transaction fee. And Amaze offers some cashback of its own, even though that keeps on getting nerfed every month. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds for now, but I'm pretty confident that by the end of the year, most banks will probably have excluded Amaze. So go get an Amaze card right now. I think it's really worth your time, especially if you're planning to travel, right? You don't earn miles, you don't enjoy no foreign currency transaction fees. It's not going to last forever. Yeah.
Right. My main card is actually the UOB one card, and I use the American True Cashback card
Amex True Cashback.
as for larger spends. Otherwise, I would break the UOB limit.
The thing with cashback is that it's a pure numbers game, right? So what's better than 1.5%? Well, 1.7%, right? So why don't you just take the UOB Absolute card and use that one? I mean, I know 0.2%, yeah, but if you're talking about big ticket expenditures, I know 0.2% could add up, right?
Yeah, I got this mainly was because of the free gift.
Sure. But then you've already got the free gift, right?
Yeah.
So
I'll just get the other one.
That's the point, yeah.
Okay, I don't really spend a lot of money. Even with kids, my monthly card expense is about 1,200. That includes outing,
1,200 every
movies.
month?
Yes, and all the kids' expenses.
Yeah.
If I switch to miles, my concern is that will I be able to earn enough to travel as a family?
Sure. So let's put this into perspective. You said 1,002. Let's just use 1,000 because I'm very lazy with my numbers. If you spend 1,000 a month on your cards and you use the right cards, in 1 year you could get up to maybe 48,000 miles, right? Because the maximum earn rate for a miles card is about 4 miles per dollar, right? So 48,000 miles, that probably isn't going to get you like round trip business class to the US or something like that, but it could be a way for you to save some money on your travel within the region. So for example, Singapore Airlines just changed their award chart now, so I can't remember the numbers like I used to, but I'm pretty sure that's more than enough for 2 round trip business class tickets to Bali or to Bangkok or something like that. So those are still potential options. Obviously, 1,000 a month isn't a lot in the grand scheme of things, but 48,000 miles, I mean, if you do it for like a couple of years, right, then that's just about enough miles for maybe a round trip, but just shy of a round trip to Japan in business class, right? That's about 104,000, so you just need a little bit more. Yeah, so there are some things, but you see, the other thing I would tell you is that your 1,000 here is just card expenses, but I'm sure you have other things like your income tax bill or your utilities bill or stuff that normally doesn't earn card rewards, right? And there are still ways of earning miles on that if you own a small business. So one of the things is called the Amex High Flyer card. Amex High Flyer card, you need to own an ACRA registered business, right? But if you get that card, it's 1.8 miles per dollar on everything, including GrabPay top-ups. So that's what I'm personally doing right now. I'm earning 1.8 miles per dollar on my income tax bill. Right, and that's an expense that probably isn't included in your 1,000, right? Because you're only thinking about like your going out, your food, stuff like that. So there are probably other expenses that don't come under that bucket, which you can still earn miles for. And the miles team is really all about looking for these opportunities, right? Even though it's not direct expenditure, or maybe 1,000 doesn't take into account big ticket items, right? So let's say you have a second kid, right? Touch wood. You have a house renovation or some other big purchase. Those are also great opportunities to use your miles card, right? Versus just using a cashback card that earns you a flat 1.5%. You can go and look for some of those sign-up bonuses. The American Express KrisFlyer cards have very good sign-up bonuses now. So that is a very easy way of maximizing miles while minimizing expenditure, because it's like a one lump sum of miles given to you once you hit a certain amount.
So I have a question. Do you use miles card with CardUp?
Okay, for the sake of those who don't know, CardUp is like a bill payment service. What CardUp does is, so think of something like rental. Like normally your landlord doesn't accept credit cards, right? But what you do is that you provide your landlord's bank account details to CardUp, and then you pay your rental bill using credit card. CardUp charges you an admin fee, but CardUp will also then do a bank transfer to your landlord as if it were you, right? So it's basically buying miles, right? You pay the admin fee, and then you earn the miles in return. Now, the reason why I personally don't do that is because I have the Amex High Flyer card, right? And then using that and GrabPay allows me to pay most of my bills with zero admin fee. But not everyone can qualify for the High Flyer card because you must own a business in order to do that. So if you don't, then yes, CardUp can absolutely make sense, especially for things like income tax where they have special promotions. It all comes down to your valuation of a mile. So this is a very important concept I keep drilling to people. Because whether or not something is worth it all comes down to how much you value it, right? I can't tell you whether it's worth it unless I know how much you value a mile. Obviously, if you value a mile like 0.1 cents, then most things will not make sense, right? Because the amount that you pay for per mile is just going to be too high. But if you value a mile at like, I personally use about 1.5 to 1.6 cents each, then there are many scenarios in which paying the admin fee can make sense, because I might buy miles at 0.8, 0.9 cents each, right? But I get 1.5, 1.6 cents of value out of them, right? So those are scenarios in which it makes sense, yeah.
So that's my expense. But what about your expense? I know that you travel a lot, but how do you even afford to travel so much?
Miles and points. Okay, so look, for me, I think the thing you need to realize is that travel is the work. So when I'm reviewing airline, hotel, products, rooms, stuff like that, when I'm visiting South Korea to report on the VTL process, or Australia to report on the border reopening, all of this is revenue generating in and of itself. Obviously, if this were not my full-time job, I would not be jetting off, to go here and there. It's just not financially sustainable. But one powers the other, so I can't write about the South Korea process unless I've seen it firsthand, right? That generates content, right? Content generates eyeballs, eyeballs generate revenue. So it is a kind of a cycle like that. Now, obviously, I still do vacations on my own, right? But then that's I see that as a separate bucket from the trips that I do, which are mostly work related. And obviously, having miles and points does take a huge bite out of the travel bill, because I don't really pay for my airfares. Hotels, I have hotel points, so I don't really pay for that as well. Most of the time, I'm redeeming my own miles. So going back to your question about sponsorship, right? I would say 98, 99% of my flights and hotels are self-paid through miles. In fact, I can count on two hands, probably, the number of sponsored hotel reviews I've done within the past 24 months. So yeah, most of it is just paying your own way, which is good for the reasons that I mentioned, right? But also because having miles and points helps cut some of that expenditure.
Are you able to share what's your miles card? Or which card do you normally use?
Yeah, so I've got a few. In fact, I don't even have the physical cards here. Oh, I might. I mentioned earlier on, see, I got my whole mouse wallet here.
Oh my god.
As an EVA Air amenities kit. So they used to give out Rimowa amenities kits back in the day. I don't know whether they still have it, but yeah, I kind of like it. I used to keep all my miles and stuff. And packet tissues and unlamp stuff. So the one card that I use a lot is called the UOB Preferred Platinum Visa. So UOB Preferred Platinum Visa is a card that earns you 4 miles per dollar everywhere mobile contactless payments are accepted. So what do? I add it to my mobile wallet and I tap my phone, and everywhere I tap my phone, I will earn 4 miles per dollar on the first 1,000 or so of spending every month. Now, obviously, there are exclusions. Like UOB has their own exclusions. Like if you pay like a utilities bill or like a government expenditure, you probably don't earn miles. But for your dining, for your shopping, even for like a haircut or even going, you're able to earn 4 miles per dollar on most of your spending. And why people like this is because it's a very no-brainer card. Like people don't memorize like 5-6 different cards. Use this one for dining, this one for shopping, etc. Right. But with this card, as long as you see contactless payment, 4 miles per dollar. It's as simple as that. The only caveat I would add is you need to be careful of something called UOB dollar merchants. So UOB has a special set of like 100 or so merchants that earn UOB dollars. UOB dollars is like their form of cashback. So don't use this one at like Giant or Cold Storage because those are UOB dollar merchants. But you can use it at NTUC, at Sheng Siong, right, at many other places, and it's 4 miles per dollar first 1,000 or so every month. I also use a card called the HSBC Revolution. HSBC Revolution is another great all-purpose solution for the simple reason that it's got a very wide range of bonus categories. So HSBC Revolution earns you 4 miles per dollar on, on dining, on shopping, on hotels, on airfares, on your Grab rides. So that's a very wide range of day-to-day expenditures, right? So just use this card as long as it's online or as long as you use contactless payments, you earn 4 miles per dollar on a very wide range of expenditure. Some of the other cards I might recommend are things like the City Rewards card. City Rewards card, 4 miles per dollar on all online spending except for travel, right? Capped at 1,000 every month. Or the DBS Women's World card is one of my favorites, and you do not need to be female to apply for it. DBS Women's World card, 4 miles per dollar on all online expenditure on the first 2,000 every month. So I think you notice I've been repeating 4 miles per dollar, right? Because 4 miles per dollar is really the benchmark you should be aiming for. Now, there are general spending cards out there like the Citi Premium Miles card or like the OCBC 90N card, right, which will earn you like 1.2-ish miles per dollar on everything. And some people default to cards like that because it's just convenient, right? I just use one card for everything. But it's a simple mathematical equation. If you're earning 1.2 miles per dollar everywhere, you're going to be earning miles 3.5 times as slowly as someone who earns 4 miles per dollar on most of his expenditure. So going back to your example, right? If you spend $1,000 every month and you put that on a Citi Premium Miles card, that's 1,200 miles every month. 1,200 times 12 is what? 14.4? Yeah, 144. But if you were to do the same thing on like the UOB Preferred Platinum Visa, right, then that's 48,000 miles. So it's night and day, the kind of differences. And I would go so far as to say that if you want to use one card everywhere, miles day might not be right for you. For the simple reason that it's not efficient, right? It's not the efficient way of earning miles. You're going to spend a lot more and have less to show for it.
So how do you decide like which to use? Because there are actually a lot of overlaps, right?
My general rule of thumb is I use the UOB Preferred Platinum Visa as the front line because that's very flexible, 4 miles per dollar almost everywhere. Then I go to my HSBC Revolution. So when I'm ordering Deliveroo or taking a Grab ride, right, or buying air tickets online, HSBC Revolution. But for all my other online expenditures, DBS Women's World card. Right, so you think about it, in an average day, you probably do a lot more online transactions than you're aware of. Your food delivery, your Grab rides, buying movie tickets, buying air tickets. You know, there's so much of your spending will be transacted online. And having a DBS Women's World card, Amazon delivery, Redmart, Lazada, stuff like that. Having a DBS Women's World card is an easy 4 miles per dollar. So it may all sound very intimidating, like there's so much to memorize, but I would tell you that you can probably do a very good miles strategy with just 3 cards, right? UOB Preferred Platinum Visa, DBS Women's World card, and then Citi Rewards or HSBC Revolution. Like these 3 cards alone are going to settle the vast majority of your expenditures.
Do you have anything you want to say to people who are still using cashback cards?
I would say cashback definitely has its uses, but you need to think about what your overall philosophy, I guess, is towards things like travel and experiences and expenditure. Now, obviously, if you're at a stage of your life where you don't travel a lot, right, where minimizing expenditures is the absolute #1 goal, then I do think cashback strategies work pretty well for that, right? Obviously, if you're able to negotiate things like minimum spend and caps and stuff like that, if you're able to wrap your head around all of that stuff, then by all means, cashback strategy can work. But I will say that if your goal is to travel and to experience things that you normally would be unwilling or unable to pay for, like business and first class, then miles cards are really the only way of doing that. Or to put it another way, no one ever earned first class through cashback alone, right? No one ever flew first class through cashback cards. The other saying that I like to have, so cash is king, but miles let you feel like one, right? So yeah, I know it's kind of cheesy, but that's the easy one-liner that I give to people. I think both have their own uses. I would say, I won't deny that miles may make you spend a bit more because when you go on vacation, obviously you're gonna spend money. So if you're the kind of person with impulse control issues and stuff like that, then maybe miles cards aren't the best for you as well, right? But assuming you can handle it responsibly, then I will say you will get a lot more mileage, bad pun, out of miles cards than you would from cashback cards, definitely.
In short, have fun feeling poor.
Yeah, well, but at least you have fun.
Right, so, at least you have your fun.
You live once.
We are trying to promote miles to every soul out there.
And trying to promote miles to the people who would benefit from miles, yes.
Right, so are there actually like any type of person who shouldn't even consider miles card?
So I would zoom the camera out a bit and talk about the kind of people who shouldn't consider credit cards in the first place. So obviously people with impulse control issues, people who feel that credit cards will make them spend more than they would otherwise. I often like to say that credit cards are debit cards with rewards, which means that you use it the way you would a debit card, i.e. you don't spend more than you have, right? But debit cards, as you know, have close to zero rewards, whereas credit cards actually give you something for your spend. I will say that if you're paying your bill in full and on time, then having credit cards can actually be a good thing because it helps build your credit history. Some people mistakenly believe that if they avoid credit cards forever, their credit score will be higher, but that's not actually true because when the banks look at your application for a loan or something like that, the question they have is whether or not you're able to responsibly handle credit. And credit cards are a way of demonstrating that you're able to do that. So if you don't give them that data through your spending and through your repayments, they may not be in a position to judge whether or not you are credit worthy for a bigger loan. Right? So obviously you don't go and apply for 20 cards and max out each of them, right? But if you do it in an incremental, responsible way, it is perfectly possible to use credit cards and still have a good credit history. I must have 20, 25 credit cards here, but I still have a AA credit score because I pay off in full and on time and I don't spend more than I have. But more specifically to your question of whether or not there are people who would be better off not using miles cards, again, go back to what I said previously. If travel is not a priority for you, if the priority is to build up a nest egg, to minimize expenditures, then absolutely cashback cards make sense. Not just because you save on your expenses, but because, let's be perfectly honest, when you travel, you will spend more money. Right? There will be expenditures, not just on your flights and on your hotels, but on your food, your attractions. No one goes overseas and just stays in the hotel room the whole time, right? You will be out and doing stuff, right? So miles cards can be a gateway to stuff like that, but as long as you're able to use it responsibly, I don't foresee any issues.
For the final question, what's your advice for young adults who will be getting their first card?
I would say the great thing about the miles game is that when I first started doing this in 2013, the miles game was not as accessible as it is now for the simple reason. For most of your general spending miles cards like the UOB Privy Miles, City Premier Miles, DBS Altitude, they all had income requirements of $80,000, right? Back in 2013. And probably most fresh grads aren't at the 80,000 mark yet, right? So the problem was that they'd start on cashback cards because they were at the $30,000 income range, and they'd never graduate the miles cards because they were so used to cashback cards by then. But around 2016, 2017, 2015, around that period, the bank started to cut the income requirements on miles cards. So now, today, you can get the City Premier Miles card, the UOB Premier Miles card, the DBS Altitude, all at the 30,000 income level, which is the MAS mandated minimum. So that has democratized the miles game. Now anyone who qualifies for a credit card can get a very good miles card. Yeah, so I would say that the miles game is more accessible than ever before. But again, my advice to fresh graduates, think about your overall position, how much you're earning, what your priorities are. If the absolute goal is to minimize card expenditures, cashback may be a good place to start. But if you're already more or less secure in that area and you're looking for a way to enjoy some of the nicer things in life, if you're looking for a way to save on your travel expenditures, then miles cards are absolutely a good way of doing that.
And I think like there's even more information nowadays when compared to previously. Like you just watch any YouTube video, blogs, and he has technically all the information up there already. Like just search for it. So I think that's all for today. If you have not checked out MileLion, do check it out. He covers a lot of even like beginner stuff. like which card you should get as your first few cards.
Yeah, and we have a big community on Telegram as well, where people can ask any kind of questions about miles and points. So you can look for the MileLion community. It's like non-stop miles 24/7. You probably need to mute it because it's just so active. Probably get 1,000 messages every day. But yeah, you can use it like a forum or a resource if you have questions as well.
Will there be a gathering though for your?
Eventually, yeah. So hopefully one day we can have, I don't know, well, obviously not. We've got 12,000, 13,000 people in the group right now. I don't think everyone's going to show up. But yeah, well, who knows? Maybe one day we can do a big gathering where everyone can share
Their love for miles.
share the love of miles and all the wonderful stories that they no doubt have.
I think, and there you have it. So once again, thank you, Aaron, for joining me in this interview. Hopefully, this whole thing will be useful for you guys, lah. So
Thanks, Kelvin. Yeah, enjoyed it.
okay, like, share, subscribe, as I'll be posting more videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Bye.
Bye bye. Thanks, everyone.
Yay.